we're going now to Amsterdam, and we're going to listen to the Sustainable Apparel Coalition, Product Environmental Footprint for Textiles.
What I'm going to do today is that I'm going to talk to you about the product environmental footprint. The intention here is to be able to double-click in one of the words that was used by Madame Dallenstein in the presentation regarding the Circular Economy Action Plan. The idea was, when she presented the Circular Economy Action Plan, she was able to show that in order to be able to move forward, if we want to be able to develop a solid and robust work, we need to be able to have, and when we want to educate and to discuss with the members regarding the environmental footprint of product, therefore we will need to have a common method, and that this common method, which is currently worked by the European Commission, is the one regarding the European environmental footprint, as you are now seeing on the screen. And the idea is that the work that is done here, the PEF work, is a work which now has a long history. Initially, it was created to be able to provide everybody with a very solid LCA approach. An LCA approach will help you calculate from a holistic perspective the entire footprint of a product. I mean that when you will have been able to develop the EU PEF, you will be able to calculate for each of the product the amount of CO2 which has been emitted, the water used, or any other of these during the entire lifetime of a product. This work is done in collaboration with all of the actors of the sectors. There is industry working on it, there is civil society, there is material association, and many others. And most importantly, this work is coordinated by DG Environment from the European Commission. So therefore, this work and all of the governance is led by that, and the SAC and all of the actors are just participating in it. And if we are doing that, is definitely with a clear objective in mind, is to ultimately allow to compare products between themselves to increase the comparability of the product put on the market, the coherence and accuracy of all of the way we calculate environmental footprint. If I pause a second to make everything clear, what this group is doing and what this project is aiming at is to create a method allowing for the calculation. It's a bit like if we're creating a recipe for cooking. We are just here to tell you how you are supposed to bundle the different ingredients together. We are not telling you the brand of the oven, or we are not telling you about how you're supposed to display the dish after on a plate. So therefore, we are not going to tackle issues about what type of labeling or other elements should be presented, but we are here to work all together regarding one method. On the next slide, you will be able to see a bit the different steps that have been taken in this work. First, initially, what we had was a work that has started in 2007 with the French Grenelle de l'Environnement. So if you were to come back on the slide regarding the timeline. And then after what happened in 2013 was a publication of a single market for green product. When this was happened, the EU PEF pilot phase was developed between 2013 and 2018. It was a first work that happened between all different players that allows to kind of do a first tryout to end up with a methodology during the pilot phase. And then at the time, the conclusion was if we want for the textile and footwear sector to have a proper and robust way that is scalable, we need to create one common method that encompasses the entirety of the apparel and footwear. So if you go back on the slide number 4, you will be able to see all of the other participants of the work. In the different participants of the work, what we have today is that we have a technical secretariat, back on slide number 4 maybe, that will be showing up. So what we have is that we have different bodies which are presented. We have brands, we have Inditex, Nike, VF Corporation, H&M, Decathlon, CNA, which are present in the technical secretariat. We have also material organizations like Cotton Incorporated, IWTO for the wool industry. We have also French organizations like the ADEME, the French Environmental Agency, or EcoTLC, now Refashion, the EPR, the private public EPR management scheme for France. Then we also have civil society with EEB represented, the European Commission showing all of that. And we have organizations like Coton, so the leather industry, Euratex representing all of the networks of textile manufacturers in Europe, Fur Europe representing the fur industry, and CEC representing the shoes industry, which are all bundling, as I was mentioning, together to be able to create this work stream. And when all of those people come together, they discuss about very clear topics. I want to show you on the next slide a bit the 6 topics that will be discussed and that will be presented during this conversation. We'll be discussing about building representative product, the use phase, the durability, distribution, circularity, raw material, to be able to establish the life cycle of a product. My intent here is not to overwhelm you with too many technical elements, but to tell you a bit what is included into this new method that the Commission will use or could use to be able to calculate environmental footprint of product. When we talked about building representative product, it means we'll be creating a kind of basic product for each category that we can have to compare each other to. So it's one main element. Then we'll be talking about the use phase. In the use phase, we want to model how do you wash a product? How often do you iron a product? What's the footprint of the washing of a product? So that all of that is modelized, that we can incorporate it. Of course, we want to talk about durability, and durability is a key element of the PEF. In the durability, we talk about product lifetime. This was mentioned by other speakers earlier on. We want also to be able to discuss about second life. When we talked about renting, resale, repair, how do we account for that? Then we talked for distribution. We have to incorporate e-commerce, product return, and unsold stock in all of these elements. Something very important, because indeed this is also part of a bigger conversation, or could be one of the building block or one of the component or ingredients for the higher circularity conversation. So therefore, from a technical perspective, that forces you to ask yourself question, when you calculate the footprint of a product, how do you calculate the footprint of a recycled fiber? Because if this fiber was already participating in the footprint of a prior product, it was somehow already accounted for. So how do you account for it when you make it in a second time in a new product? And then also we need to have clear information regarding recycling rate. And finally, we have to talk about raw materials. And in this, I mean about discussing about what are, for instance, the loss rate in production or others. So we have to model all of those aspects. There is many others which are discussed, but the key discussion will be the main one that we want to address. And all of that will be happening over a long period of time. What we are going to do, and as you can see on the next slide, is that this is the work that started virtually this year. And this is a bit too granular, but that you have the perspective that there is many stages happening up to completion, and completion is on the 31st of December 2022. Some of you may say, oh my God, I may be already having changed job until then, or this is maybe happening in a longer time. So this is happening because of two reasons, because we want to have enough time to be able to discuss about all of this complexity. We'll be doing pilot and different type of work, but also, as you can see on the next slide, there will be two big moments interested for everybody, which will be the stakeholder consultation, meaning that at two times during this process we'll pause and the technical secretariat will share publicly the draft. How are we accounted for durability? How have we incorporated the conversation regarding circularity? And how will all of that happen? So there will be a first consultation happening in summer 2022. There will be a second consultation happening in spring 2022, open to everybody, virtually or literally every citizen, every organization, every brand in Europe will be allowed, will be able to come to those conversations and to be able to work on it. So this is a bit the process that we are going to do. And why are we doing such a process? As I was saying, by 2022, what we hope at being able to delivering and what we have to deliver, as you can see on the hopefully green dot, is a delivery of a new PEF methodology. From this day onward, they will be allowed to be implemented to be able to calculate a footprint. At the same time, in parallel of the conversation regarding the method, the Commission will manage itself a work on the data to be able to know which type of data can be incorporated. What I mean by that is that to run a PEF, as I was mentioning, the work here is to be able to create a method, but we don't provide the ingredients. The ingredients, so-called, for instance, we were having earlier a conversation about fibers or cotton fibers. We need to be able to know what's the footprint, for instance, of kilo of cotton. And this type of information will be provided directly by the Commission in the database that they are managing, and will be going through the method to be able to calculate the footprint. And this can have a ton of implication. First, and the most obvious one, as was mentioned by Madame Dallenstam earlier, will be able to eventually push and allow to have a conversation regarding how do you substantiate green claims? How do you ensure that everybody, when a brand, when a retailer, when an organization wants to say that their product, their fiber, their T-shirt has a certain footprint, a better footprint than another one, then how do you make sure that everybody speaks the same language, everybody speaks on the same method? Earlier, there was a poll where you all answered regarding also what's needed to be able to accelerate on circular economy. What you could have seen here is that many times the conversation around common standards, and these flashed up in many of the virtual post-its that were on the screen. And this PEF is virtually this answer about a common standard about how do you calculate this environmental footprint in a standardized ways all through the common market that allows everybody, should they want to communicate or should they want to substantiate a claim, in the same and comparable way. And as I mentioned, we want to make sure that with everybody on board, that we have the proper scalability of all of that. That despite the fact that what I'm presenting in 10 minutes may sound rather complex, in terms of all of the other elements that can be incorporated in the PEF work, that we want to make sure that ultimately, once a brand or an SME will want to apply for it, it will not require too much information. It will require enough information to be meaningful, but yet not too many to ensure scalability. So it's always by playing with this balance that will ensure that ultimately the industry can have the proper tool to be able to substantiate claim. But again, there is now also many conversation, part of the circular economy. There was a conversation on product passport talking about durability of the element. If durability is calculated in the PEF, could there be a link there? Can there be an information that can be shared also during this method? There is conversation regarding eco-modulation, carbon tax, or wherever, where the Commission has asked directly, could maybe this tool, this common tool to measure the performance of a product and giving the CO2 footprint, the water footprint, and other be leveraged? So that means that once there will be a tool, a single tool to be able to measure this footprint that we are now currently working on, then the door will be open to be able to base on facts and on science any of the direction we want to take to be able to improve the footprint of the industry. So I will initially pause here and stop at this point. And there is a question, therefore, yeah.
Yes, thank you very much so far, Baptiste.